The morning sun cast a warm glow over Memphis, yet the atmosphere at the gas station on Teak Rock Lane was anything but serene. The discovery of a newborn in the dumpster had sent ripples of shock through the community. Officers were already on site, carefully canvassing the area for any evidence that might illuminate this tragic scene. Detective Lisa Monroe, leading the investigation, was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. She approached the gas station owner, who replayed the security footage with trembling hands. The grainy images clearly showed Daniel Marks pulling up in his car, exiting briefly to throw a bag into the dumpster before driving off. This was a pivotal moment. It framed Marks as a primary suspect, but his motives remained shrouded in mystery. Monroe turned to her partner, Detective Sam Jenkins, her mind racing with questions. "We need to understand why Marks did this," she stated, determination etched into her voice. "First step, let's bring him in and see what he has to say." With video evidence in hand, they had enough to warrant an interrogation. At Gilmer Police Station, Daniel Marks sat in a sterile interrogation room, his demeanor oscillating between defiance and feigned ignorance. "I don't know what you're talking about," he insisted repeatedly, avoiding eye contact. Detective Jenkins pressed on. "The footage clearly shows you at the gas station. What do you have to say about that?" he queried. Marks shrugged dismissively. "I was just throwing out trash," he responded, his voice laced with nonchalance. But it was the inconsistencies in his narrative that piqued Monroe's interest. Cross-referencing his phone records revealed frequent calls to the juvenile mother in question, a pattern too deliberate to ignore. "You seem quite involved with this young girl," Monroe noted, her tone probing for any hint of truth. Marks shifted uncomfortably. "She's just a friend," he muttered, eyes darting around the room. The detectives exchanged glances. His evasive answers only stirred more suspicion about his relationship with the girl. They needed her side of the story. The visit to the juvenile mother's home painted a stark contrast to Mark's cavalier attitude. The young mother appeared fragile, her eyes wide with fear as she opened the door. Detective Monroe chose her words carefully, aware of the girl's vulnerable state. "We're here to help you," Monroe assured gently. "We need to understand what happened and your relationship with Mr. Marks." The girl hesitated, her fear palpable. "I don't want to get in trouble," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Detective Jenkins leaned forward slightly. "You're not in trouble," he reassured her softly, "but we need your help to understand everything better." Tears welled up in her eyes as she spoke haltingly about feeling pressured by Marks, hints of coercion laced through her fragmented recollections. It was enough for Monroe and Jenkins to realize they were dealing with a case far more complex than it initially seemed. As they left her home, Monroe's mind spun with possibilities and questions left unanswered. Who exactly was Daniel Marks? What drove him to such desperate measures? Standing outside under the gray sky, Jenkins voiced what both detectives felt simmering beneath their surface thoughts. "Looks like we have a deeper rabbit hole than we thought." His words hung heavy in the air as they resolved to dig deeper into Mark's past. Just then, Monroe's phone buzzed with an incoming call from another detective back at HQ. The forensic team had found something unexpected at Marks's residence that could change everything they thought they knew about him. Detective Monroe's phone buzzed, jolting her from the intense contemplation of the young mother's haunting words. The call from HQ revealed a potentially pivotal discovery at Daniel Marks' residence, an unexpected twist that demanded immediate attention. As the detectives navigated the bureaucratic labyrinth of the Memphis Records Office, they were keenly aware of the importance of uncovering Marks' past. The office, with its walls lined with endless stacks of files, seemed a testament to the complexity of human histories recorded within. Monroe and Jenkins sifted through the records, each document a potential lead. The challenge was formidable. Bureaucratic histories often obscured more than they revealed. Yet persistence paid off when Monroe stumbled upon hints of unreported incidents similar to the current case. These records suggested a disturbing pattern of coercive control in Marks's relationships, a revelation that could not be ignored. "These patterns," Jenkins said quietly, They're too consistent to be coincidental. We need to talk to people who knew him. Their next move took them to a local community center, where they hoped to interview individuals connected to Marks. However, gaining insights into Marks's character proved challenging, as reluctance and fear among potential interviewees clouded their efforts. In a dimly lit room filled with nervous energy, they spoke with a former acquaintance of Marks. Her words painted a chilling picture of his manipulative tactics, eerily reminiscent of those he used on the juvenile mother. "He always knew how to find girls who were vulnerable," she admitted, her eyes darting nervously. The detectives exchanged a knowing glance. This revelation indicated a persistent behavioral issue with Marks and added another layer to their investigation. "We need to connect these patterns back to our current case," Monroe affirmed. The next logical step was a detailed forensic analysis of the gas station's security footage. At the Memphis Forensic Lab, an environment buzzing with activity posed another challenge. Overloaded schedules threatened to delay their critical analysis. But persistence paid off again when the footage finally played on screens before them. Enhanced and examined under expert eyes, it revealed more than just Marks's physical actions. Behavioral experts noted his demeanor post-incident, small tells that spoke volumes about his state of mind. "He knows what he's done," an expert pointed out as they watched Mark's nervous glances and hurried movements. "He's trying to appear calm but failing miserably." Monroe nodded, filing away these observations for their upcoming case review session. They needed to brainstorm future steps in light of these emerging patterns that increasingly pointed towards Mark's culpability. As they gathered for the session, Monroe's mind was already spinning with strategies and questions yet unanswered. But just as they began reviewing their findings, an unexpected development halted everything. A detective burst into the room, eyes wide with urgency. "We've got a new lead," he announced breathlessly. "A witness has come forward claiming they saw something that morning. Something about another car leaving the scene right after Marks." The room fell silent as this revelation hung in the air. A potential twist that could change everything they thought they knew about Daniel Marks and his actions that fateful day. Detective Lisa Monroe's mind buzzed with the revelation of a new witness, yet the immediate task demanded attention at Shelby County Jail. Marks's psychological evaluation was critical, especially given the emerging complexities of his interactions with the juvenile mother. The sterile environment of the jail's visiting room felt oppressive. Dr. Emily Carter, a seasoned psychologist, had been briefed on Marks's case. Her task was to delve into his psyche, extracting motives that eluded logical explanation. Marks sat across from Dr. Carter, his demeanor oscillating between feigned indifference and occasional hostility. "Let's get this over with," he muttered, eyes avoiding hers. Dr. Carter remained unfazed. "We want to understand your perspective," she began gently. His responses were fragmented. Inconsistencies in his narrative surfaced quickly. Through her probing, Dr. Carter detected subtle signs of narcissistic tendencies, a need for control that mirrored the manipulative behavior reported by acquaintances. "What about your relationship with the girl?" she pressed, observing his reaction. Mark's facade cracked momentarily as he shifted uncomfortably, but offered no substantial insight. Despite his resistance, the evaluation provided a clearer picture. Marks was adept at coercing vulnerable individuals, a pattern now evident in his dealings with the juvenile mother. Back at the precinct, Monroe and Jenkins absorbed Dr. Carter's findings. "This complicates everything," Jenkins noted. "It gives us leverage," Monroe countered, her resolve firming. They decided to re-interview the young mother armed with this newfound understanding. At the juvenile detention center, they found her more fragile than before, her emotional state a palpable barrier to extracting a coherent narrative. Monroe approached gently. "We know more about Daniel now, how he operates. We need you to help us connect the dots." Tears welled in her eyes as she confessed to Marks's manipulative grasp over her life decisions, an influence that led to desperation and confusion on the day of the incident. "He said, it was for the best," she whispered through sobs, each word brimming with regret and fear. Her revelations painted a disturbing mosaic of psychological manipulation, each piece crucial for constructing a timeline that accurately depicted events leading to the tragic day. Returning to Memphis Police Headquarters, Monroe and Jenkins faced the daunting task of threading these fragmented narratives into a cohesive timeline. Evidence lay sprawled across tables: statements, footage analysis, phone records, a testament to their exhaustive investigation. Conflicting testimonies posed challenges. Each contradiction needed careful navigation to avoid erroneous conclusions. After hours of meticulous work, they managed to align Mark's coercive patterns to pivotal points in their timeline, his presence confirmed at crucial junctures. Monroe tapped her pen against the table thoughtfully. "This is our key," she declared, pointing at Marx's documented control tactics that led up to that fateful morning. "We'll need airtight strategies for pressing charges," Jenkins added, aware of their responsibility's gravity. But just as they began strategizing their next steps against Marx, a startling development emerged. A call from HQ shattered their concentration. The new witness had provided more than just a random sighting. They recounted seeing another car swiftly departing the scene right after Marx, a vehicle linked to someone in Marx's inner circle whose identity added an explosive dimension to their case. The implications were staggering and left detectives grappling with potential collusion or hidden alliances previously unconsidered. As Monroe processed this bombshell revelation, one thought loomed ominously. Had they merely scratched the surface of something far more sinister lurking beneath Memphis's quiet facade? The cliffhanger hung heavily in the air, mysteries deepening as truths twisted into darker forms yet untold. The tension in Memphis was palpable. Detective Lisa Monroe could feel it in the air as she walked into the local news station, where journalists were abuzz with the latest updates on the Daniel Marks case. The community was in turmoil, demanding answers and justice. The media frenzy had added another layer of complexity to their investigation, intensifying public pressure. Inside the bustling newsroom, Monroe could see reporters preparing for live segments, their voices carrying a mix of urgency and outrage. "The people want justice," one anchor articulated with fervor, summarizing the community's sentiments. This atmosphere was a double-edged sword. It encouraged witnesses to come forward, but also risked compromising the investigation's integrity. As Monroe listened intently to coverage detailing Mark's past, new witness accounts emerged, painting a chilling portrait of his previous actions. These revelations prompted her to dive deeper into his history. "We need to verify these claims," she told Jenkins as they left the station, their next step clear: fact-checking and pursuing any leads originating from concerned citizens. The press conference at Memphis City Hall was their next stop, a strategic move to manage public expectations and maintain control over the narrative. Under glaring lights and a sea of expectant faces, Monroe stepped forward to provide a controlled briefing. "We're working tirelessly to uncover the full truth," Monroe assured the audience, deliberately disclosing Marx's documented pattern of coercion as a warning to those withholding information. This disclosure was carefully calculated. It aimed to encourage others with knowledge of Mark's actions to come forward. However, it also risked inflaming public sentiment further, potentially hindering investigative secrecy. As Monroe stepped away from the podium, she hoped her words would prompt crucial disclosures from reticent witnesses. Back at headquarters, the detectives received word of another promising lead, a tip-off about potential evidence hidden at one of Marx's properties. Legal hurdles loomed large as they sought comprehensive search warrants necessary for an effective raid. Finally securing approval, Monroe and Jenkins found themselves once again at Marx's residence. The house bore a sterile emptiness that belied its dark secrets. Methodically, they combed through rooms, intent on uncovering anything incriminating. In the master bedroom closet, Jenkins discovered a stack of diaries and documents buried under layers of clothes. As they sifted through these pages, a narrative emerged. Detailed notes outlining how Marx manipulated and controlled his young victim's life, confirmation of his systematic abuse. "This is it," Jenkins murmured. "This is what we needed." These findings were monumental. They painted a vivid picture of Mark's predatory behavior and provided the evidence necessary for pressing charges. Yet as they prepared to leave with this treasure trove of incriminating material, Monroe felt an unsettling chill. Just as they exited the property, a call came through from HQ, an urgent update about the other car seen leaving the scene that fateful day. The vehicle had been traced back to someone shockingly close within Marks's circle, a revelation that threatened to unravel everything they believed about his isolated actions. Monroe's heart pounded as she contemplated this new twist. Had there been an accomplice all along? Was this case spiraling into something far more sinister than they'd anticipated? The magnitude of this discovery hit them both hard, thrusting them into uncharted territory with implications that could shake their investigation to its core. As night fell over Memphis, one thing became clear. The truth was submerged beneath layers of deceit and darkness, yet untold. The courtroom at Shelby County Courthouse buzzed with anticipation as the trial against Daniel Marks reached its zenith. The prosecutor, armed with the mountain of evidence meticulously gathered over weeks of investigation, faced the defense's relentless attempts to dismantle their case. Marks sat stoically, his eyes betraying no emotion, while whispers of community outrage rippled through the gallery. Detective Lisa Monroe watched from the back, her eyes fixed on the proceedings. The defense lawyer argued vehemently, questioning the validity of the timeline constructed by Monroe and Jenkins. But it was the testimonies from unexpected witnesses that fortified their case beyond doubt. Former acquaintances of Marks came forward, corroborating the juvenile mother's narrative of manipulation and control. One witness recounted disturbing patterns in Mark's behavior, describing how he systematically sought out vulnerable young girls. These accounts painted a chilling backdrop to his relationship with the juvenile mother, casting light on his coercive tactics. The courtroom fell silent as these revelations unfolded, each detail tightening the noose around Marks. As closing arguments concluded, Monroe felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The judge's gavel echoed as deliberations commenced, a signal for Monroe and Jenkins to quietly exit amidst murmurs of anticipation about the verdict. The transition from courtroom drama to addressing the juvenile mother's future was stark yet necessary. At the Youth Rehabilitation Center, Monroe and Jenkins met with social workers committed to ensuring her emotional recovery and societal reintegration. Her fragility was evident, but there was hope in her eyes, a flicker of resilience nurtured by newfound support networks. Community outreach initiatives promised her psychological recuperation through therapy sessions and educational opportunities. As she spoke haltingly about her aspirations beyond her ordeal, Monroe realized this chapter in her life had only just begun. "I want to move forward," she confided softly, her voice tinged with determination amidst vulnerability. This sentiment marked a turning point, a shift from victimhood to empowerment. The healing process continued at a community center, where residents gathered for a session focused on reconciliation post-verdict. Despite tensions lingering about justice and safety, there was a collective desire to heal. As community leaders facilitated dialogue, discussions on vigilance and resilience took center stage. "We must learn from this," one elder stated passionately, emphasizing unity against future threats. The session fostered an atmosphere of understanding, promoting solidarity born from shared pain. Monroe observed this transformation with quiet satisfaction. The community's resolve reflected lessons learned from their ordeal, a testament to collective strength arising after tragedy. As the evening drew to a close, a sense of closure settled over Monroe. Yet beneath this calm lay an undercurrent of unease, a reminder that justice doesn't erase trauma entirely. It merely offers a path forward. In reflection, Monroe pondered the broader implications of Mark's actions, how easily darkness can fester unnoticed within seemingly ordinary lives. This thought lingered ominously as she left the center. Returning home under Memphis's starry sky, Monroe considered what lay ahead, not just for herself or her colleagues, but for a community reshaped by its ordeal. The trial had concluded, with justice served in courtrooms and healing initiated within hearts. Yet as she paused at her doorstep, Monroe couldn't shake off the feeling that some shadows lingered still, hidden elements waiting silently beneath society's surface, a chilling realization that marked both an end and a beginning.